How does one sell domain names or get into the business of buying and selling domain names? Um, there's actually a couple ways. One, I used to do this, and there's actually two different levels of this type of business. Actually, maybe three. Um, the idea is there is the very premium type of domain names where you could sell them at auction for high amounts of money, or have a company like moniker.com, moniker.com, go ahead and sell it for you, okay, where they actually represent you and they bring it to a like a Fortune 500 company and offer it to them because they have more credibility. They've been selling domain names for a long time. They do these auctions regularly for domain names. And actually, you could sell it on moniker.com or ebay.com domain names. And I used to sell domain names on eBay, where I was doing it on a small level where I would just sell them for a couple $100, $100 here, 200, 300, whatever. And I would just go and brainstorm domain names and get really good ones by just sitting there and brainstorming different keywords and sticking them in. And of course, you have to be careful because I think some people don't realize, even though they think they might have a catchy phrase for a domain name, maybe there's no market for it, even if it sounds cool. See, the main thing is to realize that there's certain terms that will bring a market, okay? Something that has to do with business obviously is going to get a better chance of selling for a higher price. You might think you have the coolest domain in the world, and it might be, similar to a Hollywood celebrity or whatever, but that's another factor too. You can't, use trademarked items when you're buying domain names because, I mean, you can, but eventually they might try to force you to give it to them, and you could try to sell it to them, but I mean, that gets into kind of a hairy area because you have the lawyer legality thing and stuff involved then. But the thing is like when you sell it on eBay, it would be only for items, for domain names that you came up with that are kind of catchy, that are probably more like business related type. I had one like gosuv.com. I've actually had a lot of them, and like I have one I own right now called gamefunjunior.com, which is just a gaming website, but for myself, But I'm thinking more along the lines of business-oriented domain names are going to bring in more money because the customers have money, okay? And that's where you want to look. And then on top of that, if you do get lucky and you get a really great domain, you could contact moniker.com. These guys there, they might potentially put it at a higher auction, because what they do is they take submissions for general public auctions where they'll have a public auction on a certain date, and they'll usually get 40,000 to 100,000 submissions of domain names to potentially sell at this huge auction, where you could even get as high as $1 million for a domain name, right? So, but they usually only have 200 or 300 that end up, the showcase domain names that get auctioned off, and then they have maybe a couple thousand more where they have a certain type of lower bidding auction, and of course there's 40,000, only maybe 2,000-3,000 end up getting into the auction itself. So they go through and they pick the best ones to auction off, and then obviously some of the flagship ones will probably be selling for 200,000 to $1 million or even more. Because sometimes it's not just selling a domain name you bought off Google, GoDaddy.com or something. It could be a domain name you own that has a website attached to it as well. Because they also auction off website ones where the company's making, let's say, $1 million a year in revenue, and they'll auction off the website and a company together for, say, $2.5 million or something like that. And I was actually offered a deal once. I just had this company call me up, which owns some, I have a Christian website called godrules.net, and this company was one of the biggest companies online, and they go around buying Christian websites, kind of like eBay goes around buying business websites, but that's on a bigger level, as you can imagine. But so they came up to me and offered me $100,000 to buy my website and the domain name and all that kind of stuff that went with it. And it was like them buying also the revenue streams that came from my website as well. But I turned it down because I figured it was worth more than that based on some of the calculations I had done. I thought it was worth probably more like $500,000. But actually, it lost some traffic, so maybe it wasn't worth as much. But the thing was, is they were lowballing me. I could tell they were basically trying to get me to sell for a low price. But I mean, if you put it up for auction, maybe you would have gotten, you know, the whole idea is that they look also sometimes they just investigate for you to find you a private customer, somebody who would actually be interested in buying your domain name if they can't auction it off. You know what I mean? So, so this is kind of what's behind the whole thing. Of course, if you're just selling them on eBay, I mean, you could do a little bit of that if you want to do that for money on the side. You can make even $200 a day or something just selling a domain name here and there, a couple of domain names a day. All you do is you just spend all day doing keyword searches on, you know, GoDaddy.com to see if there's any available domain names with various search terms. And like I said, if you focus on business-based ones, particularly small business, especially if you're going to be selling for $100, $200, you should be focusing more on small business type websites where you got to fit it to the customer. Okay. Now, if you get hit gold and you find a really awesome domain name, you know, it has to be a one where a Fortune 500 company would want it. It has to be a very good domain name. Like I guess wallstreet.com, for instance, that was one of them they auctioned off. You know, because you got like the Wall Street Journal, you get all Wall Street itself, you got all these companies on Wall Street, so somebody might want wallstreet.com, obviously. So you get kind of the idea. I mean, you should focus more on business-based domain names. I mean, obviously, like if you got some skateboarder or some, you know, sports one, I mean, you have to ask yourself, are there any customers for that domain name? Even if it sounds cool, you know what I mean? And then also you have to price it right. You have to gauge the pricing. And actually, this website, moniker.com, they actually help you gauge pricing and stuff like that if you have one of these higher up domain names. But I mean, like apartment rentals, you know, like I had Go SUV, that'd be kind of like a dealership type domain name. And that's a great domain name if you think about it. I mean, one-stop home rentals. I mean, you can think of a bunch of them. Like VegasPayouts.com, that's Las Vegas. You know, it's a huge city, like Wall Street, Las Vegas. You know what I mean? So, and you don't want to undervalue it. If you really think you have a great domain name, you know, submit it to those guys. And I don't have any affiliation with them. I just heard about them today, this moniker.com. I already knew there were these type of auctions, but that's just one company I saw online that looked kind of like they did a good job with it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Actually, I was thinking also maybe I should give you some tips for like if you are going to just sell like kind of the smaller potatoes type, you know, small business domain names on eBay. You know, obviously one of the main things is, and this might not sound like something, but it really is. When you create an auction on eBay for the domain name, make sure you make a logo that's very, you know, it has a lot of color, very bright. And there's certain colors that captures people's attention, like red. I mean, if you look at the main brands out there that have logos, you'll notice what colors they have, like Coke, red and white. Pepsi, blue, red, and white. You see what I'm getting at? Red is a color that grabs your attention. You'll notice when you go to the store, red is usually used on almost every box in one way, shape, or form to catch your attention. Now, there's also themes of colors too, like a silver and blue is kind of like high tech. You know, like purple is royalty, or something like Robert Kiyosaki uses purple a lot, which kind of makes you think rich people or royalty. You know, and then whenever it's like a fast food thing, they want you in and out. Okay, they want you in buying and out. Okay, that's the red colors, the yellow colors, like McDonald's. You'll notice that the colors are all to get your attention, like Burger King, red, white, blue, and it has even yellow. So you have to take into consideration colors, and also you can do color psychology with the domain name, because like certain colors go with certain types of business industries. And so if you make a very clear icon that is the gallery image on eBay, then it really captures your attention. And you know, if you play on what your customer, what you got to think about who would be the one that would buy that type of domain, and then you got to ask yourself what they're really looking for, and then kind of write that in the advertisement, like their desires, what they're looking for. You know, do you have a car lot? Do you want to get everybody's attention? Maybe you can even take it to the next level and have a business online where you're selling on a larger level. Here, gosuv.com, you know, something like that. And it only took me a second to think of that, but I mean, you can do that with any domain name, and this will help you sell it because you're trying to get in, you're trying to play into their desires. You know what I mean? That's where all the advertising is trying to tell them that your product will get them their desires in the end.